Let's go ahead and officially call it to order. As our custom is, we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves. Just start here at the table, name and organization or locality, and then we'll jump over to my left with Kevin and work our way around. So Tyrone Nelson, Henrico County.
Neil Gibson, City Attorney's Office.
Odie Donald, City of Richmond.
Dan Schmidt, Henrico County.
Mark Smith, Chesterfield.
Dave Anderson, Chesterfield.
Bo Jones, City of Richmond.
Terrell Hughes, Henrico County.
Cheryl Adams, GRTC.
Hernandez, Jerry.
Adrian Torres, GRTC.
Dina Weinstein, Henrico Citizen.
Joe Diller, GRTC.
Anthony Connor, GRTC.
Johnson, Sorrell, GRTC.
Martin, GRTC.
GRTC.
Laura Tickman, GRTC. Shariko Ruffin,
Esther Hurd, GRTC.
Special House, GRTC. That's where GRTC.
Always found 18.
Yes,
All right, that's it, everybody? Okay, all right. Anyone sign up for public comments? I don't think, but anyone here want to speak? Okay. All right, who is it?
yes,
Okay, come on up.
so you were just hiding with us.
Oh, you can just stand right there if you want to, that's fine. Yeah.
Yes, I'm Katie Scott, I'm a Richmond citizen. I have a disability. I have a traumatic brain injury and low vision. Also have spinal cord injury. I submitted a public comment to first commend the drivers. One particularly bus 14 2302 was exceptionally kind and considerate to all the passengers, and he showed exceptional support. And that was really, it was a breath of fresh air to experience because it's not always present. And so I wanted to be able to, a lot of people can complain about things, but I wanted to be able to highlight that experience because it was really wonderful. And I'm very grateful of GRT services. The second concern is the closing of the bus stops on Broad Street, specifically Broad and 3rd and Broad and 2nd, and to also be transparent. I submitted concerns 15 weeks ago, and there were a lot of administrative that did not return calls and provide support, and that was discerning. And so I want to be able to show how great of a impact it has on my life. I have physical challenges, and walking 8 blocks to the next stop for the bus that I mainly catch is extremely challenging, and they present a safety challenge. I had to go to the emergency room 2 weeks ago because I could not bear the weight in my legs, and so I'm reaching out to GRTC to please find a temporary means of allowing riders to not have to walk, to be able to support them physically and be able to connect, because the vision and mission of GRTC states that it is to provide the consistent opportunities of safe and sustainable transit. But if we are disconnected in the opportunity, then your mission, your goals do not have weight. And so please consider supporting riders who need that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. And we hear you. Anybody else? All right, we'll close public comments and move into CEO's report.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It is my pleasure to recognize and congratulate our employees of the month for the month of August. We do have one of them in attendance this morning. That is Ms. Jacqueline Pierce. Ms. Jacqueline has been extremely helpful upon coming to GRTC. She hasn't even been here a year yet. She has initiated new procedures, which has helped accounts payable invoices sooner. This new process improved the cash flow process. She also approves all accounts receivable, invoices, and cash receipts. She's always very helpful and pays attention to detail. And I would just like to add that she's always looking for ways to improve the overall process, whether it's grants or whatever the situation is. She has been a true asset to GRTC, and I'm glad someone recognized that and submitted her name. So we want to congratulate Jacqueline for the good work that she's been doing over the 8 months, I guess it's been. So she's been here, so congratulations. And the other two were not able to make it this morning, but we will recognize them in their absence. The next one is Dakota McCormick. She is a bus cleaner in our maintenance department. And they say she's been a great asset to GRTC's bus cleaning staff. Her strong work ethic was obvious since starting employment at GRTC in April of 2022. Most recently, she received positive feedback. When we boarded the bus, we thought it was a new bus. I guess it must have just been detailed. It looked good, smelled good, everything was shiny. Great job to the detail. And that was one of the buses that she had cleaned. So she's being recognized for the work that she does to help keep our buses maintained and clean. So we'll honor her. And the last one is Arsenio Tucker, who is one of our bus operators in our transportation department. It said earlier this year, Operator Tucker called radio dispatch stating a teenage passenger informed him she was a runaway. Operator Tucker jumped into action, getting all her information for GRTC to facilitate a safe return to her family. Shortly thereafter, Chesterfield County and her father arrived, and she was safely transferred into their custody. Operator Tucker's swift action at 11 p.m. at night helped reunite this teenager with her family, keeping her out of harm's way. So we want to congratulate him for being alert and thinking. The next item that I have is an award that GRTC received for our TAP program. The Community Transportation Association of Virginia recognized GRTC for the TAP program. The TAP program was submitted as an innovative year-round community investment model that brings together transit advertising as well as partnerships and advocacy. And I would like to say that we have heard from other transit agencies regarding this program of how it's run, what, everything that goes into it. So people are really interested in this. So it was great to be recognized at the CTAB conference last week. So congratulations to our marketing department and everyone that was involved in this program and is involved in this program because it has continued. The other two items I have are just housekeeping to remind, first of all, that we will have our board retreat at our board meeting next month, September. Then after that, we have our shareholders meeting on October 21st. Those notices have gone out to the proper people, which in turn means our October board meeting will be delayed by 1 week. So we'll put those things on your calendars just to make sure we block off that space. But I want to give everyone a heads up that those things are coming. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move forward. Approval of the July 21st, 2026 board meeting minutes. Anybody have any questions or anything about it? If not, can we approve? All right, motion made and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Consent agenda. Information was already sent out with your meeting minutes packet. And so enterprise software licensing renewal, construction phase, engineering services for paving, remediation project, and changes to scope of facility paving project. And if you have any questions, Mr. Hurt or Ms. Toothman can answer them. Anyone have any questions? All right, can you get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion made in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. All right, Barb, development update.
We met last week, the development committee, and one topic was the schedule for the development of the FY 28 through FY 32 plan. At our next meeting, at the next board meeting, the 3 scenarios developed in the workshops in June will be presented. And if you'll remember, 2 scenarios were developed based on existing funding levels, one focused on ridership and the other focused on coverage. And then a 3rd scenario was focused on expansion. So after that board meeting, the scenarios will go out for public comments. And then we'll hear what comments were received at the November meeting. As part of that September board meeting coming up, the CBTA Director, Chet Parsons, will discuss findings and recommendations of the 2022 Transit Governance Study. And that was developed as a result of the General Assembly taking action when the CBTA was formed and directing CBTA to evaluate the governance structure of transit service in the region, including evaluation of establishing a transportation service district. And that study is posted on CVTA's webpage. So if you want to look at it ahead of time, but Chet Parsons will be here to talk about that. We also got a legislative update from Joe. We're still waiting on a new surface transportation reauthorization package. The Senate, though, approved a temporary extension to December 11th. And that requires House action to make it official. The House has put together a proposal for a reauthorization package, and that's moving through the House, but the Senate hasn't developed their version yet. And then on the state level, Department of Rail and Public Transportation is required to update every 5 years their mass transit operating capital and incentive programs. Did I say 5 years? It was 3 years. And that review began in 2025. So DRPT is now seeking public comments on changes to their operating and capital grant programs. The changes are intended to make the program simpler and more performance-based with more emphasis on ridership, service delivery, and cost effectiveness. And GRTC staff is supportive of the changes. The public comment period closes September 18th. And the state adopted 27 budget includes a one-time $19 million for statewide transit capital assistance funding stream. So that's good. Then on project updates, as you can see, there's paving out there, and paving is going to start also at the Downtown Transfer Center on August 21st and be complete September 11th. Staff submitted 4 smart scale applications, 2 for North-South BRT, 1 from Azalea to the Downtown Transfer Center, and then the second Downtown Transfer Center to Stonebridge. Also an application for the Pulse Western Extension construction funding, Willow Lawn Transfer Center and Park and Ride. And then for the Pulse, the field survey of station locations is wrapping up, and that's needed for the NEPA study, which is expected to be complete at the end of the year. North-South Transit Oriented Development Study is complete. Permanent Downtown Transfer Center request for proposals closes August 28th. And then last but not least, the Western Pulse Extension, the modeling that VDOT requested has been complete. And they're planning to submit the completed NEPA analysis to FTA for the Western Pulse Extension in November and hoping to get a response in January. That's all I have. Laura?
Oh, good, Laura.
The downtown transfer station meeting start on August 31st.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thanks.
All right, any questions? Thank you, Barb, as always, for transcribing and sharing all of that. So I know that's a lot. Yeah. So, financial update.
Morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. We're going to go through the financial. Start on slide 12, your handouts. All right, so on slide, the whole pack, the presentation starts on slide 12. I'm going to talk off of here. This is slide 14. So this is the entire revenue and expense section. So to call out in the extra, wait a minute. Yeah, thank you. So on the operating expense side, actual expenses of 93 million versus the budget of 107 million for a $14.25 million favorable performance. That is being driven primarily, as you can see, in the planning, scheduling, and marketing, which is basically the various studies, programs that we've talked about in previous briefings here, where the budget contemplated more expenditures in fiscal 2026 than what actually has occurred, and that will have its offsetting impact on revenue. The other one here at the top here, the equipment and facility maintenance is favorable to $6 million budget. This is primarily being driven by lower than anticipated or budgeted costs in fleet repairs and parts to the tune of about $1.25 million. Favorable labor in the vehicle maintenance and facility maintenance facilities about $483,000, as well as other facility services about $400,000. On the transportation line, it's favorable versus budget of $903,000. That's driven primarily in vacancies in the supervision ranks and the corresponding fringe benefits, and it's offset slightly by a higher elevated overtime experience rate as versus budget. Overtime for the year was about 7.65 versus the budgetary assumption of about 3%. General administrative expenses is $2.2 million favorable versus budget. This is primarily due to headcount and so the salaries as well as the fringe benefit savings. Consistent with prior briefings, insurance and safety is unfavorable versus budget, 1.1 million, and that's due to higher incidences on provision for uninsured motorists, more accidents, therefore higher provisions for that. And the purchase transportation ended the year about $1,081,000 unfavorable versus budget, and that's due to increased demands for the GRTC programs, including Care and Care Plus. So going up to the top, Dexter, if you could go to the revenue section. We're seeing here in the operating revenue, it's favorable to budget by about 74,576, driven by the charter revenue of $60,000 and the advertising revenue overperformed by 14,000. This is a little bit different, as I mentioned in the prior briefings. This is the accounting-based version of recognition of income versus what has been booked that you report on elsewhere. Going down to the other income section, RideFinders, as we discussed previously, is unfavorable versus budget. That's due to lower headcount in RideFinders than what was contemplated. So therefore, RideFinders is leased personnel, so the revenue is on GRTC's books. And interest income came favorable to budget by $350,000 and been narrowing. So if you do the straight line, it's about a little over $28,000 a month, but it's narrowing based upon the cash position, which we'll show you later in the slides, and transportation income, which is basically due to rebates on the communications Verizon from the good work of the IT folks. So we were 14.25 million favorable on expenses. So we're unfavorable on the revenues by 10.7 million. The biggest piece of that is the budgetary assumption was that GRTC was going to fund from its surpluses $5 million. So, and then when you go through the other components, the federal operating contribution is unfavorable to budget by 5.1 million. Why is that? Planning consulting is favorable to expenses by 10 million. That's 46% of that is roughly going on there, and then some timing. A little overperformance on the COVID relief funds. Those funds have to be utilized by September 30th to 2027. They're contemplated in the the remaining balance of that is contemplated in fiscal 27 budgets. We're on path to make sure that none of those funds are not utilized appropriately for supporting our transit operations. On the state operating contributions versus budget ended up about 1.8 million unfavorable. As you recall, the 2026 budget had a assumption of $2 million from CMAQ, which did not come to fruition. So this also is impacted by the planning consulting, because that would be 50 state, but it was that unfavorableness was overcome by charges for the Care and Care Plus on the Route 1 extensions by the DRPT operating grants. The unfavorable performances for Richmond, Henrico, and Chesterfield versus the operating contributions. This is the allocation of operating contributions into the capital section to match the 4% local, or 2% of the 4% local. The CBTA, if you net the two slightly, is this little higher capital that was that was experienced versus what the budgetary assumption. So Dexter, go down to the bottom. So all in all, revenues, and this is draft. This is a final version of our trial balance, which we're going to transmit to the auditors. The auditors field work for GRTC's audit commences on August 31st. So as of right now, we are showing that a operating surplus of 3.8 million, a little bit higher than the 2 million, but this does not have some of the non-cash adjustments in there, such as the GASB 68 for pension, the GASB 101, and CBITA adjustments. So that number, as we go through the audited financial statements, Brown Edwards, that will probably reduce a little bit, but we're in a good position to support the $2 million a surplus that we contemplated going forward in the 2027 budget.
And that was without putting the 5 million.
So theoretically, the 5 million, we did not need 3.8 million of it. So we utilized 1.2 million. So that's basically an overview of the operating revenues and expenses. And I'll stop this moment for any questions before we move on to the balance sheet and cash flow.
Questions, colleagues? All right, keep going.
Okay. Got the fast forward. All right, so on the balance sheet, in this balance sheet, we compare we have the June 30th, 26 versus May versus the prior June. So what you'll notice here, looking at the combination of the cash working funds and capital funds. So these top three lines, these top three lines, you notice that there's a decrease in cash and capital funds by 10.1 million. At the same time, you'll notice a $11 million increase in accounts receivable. This is mainly a function we talked about in the previous meetings, is the 5307 program. We have 4 FTA grant applications making their way through finalization. The 1458-25-2 is in review with the DOL, so that's the 30-day warning. So that we anticipate that one being executed in the month of September, but FTA closes it down, so we're not contemplating the reimbursement until October. That's about $8.3 million of the 11, and the other balances are from 24-2, which we expect to be converted into a grant probably in the fourth quarter of this year, as well as the transit-oriented development. You look at the other highlights, obviously assets increased by about $14 million, driven primarily by increase in fixed assets, as well as the increase in the CBTA, obviously the collections, and we appropriate less than we collect. So all in all, those are the noteworthy items on the balance sheet. But Dexter, if you can go to slide 30, is hand in hand with this. This is the cash flow projection. So here we are. This is updated through August actual, July actual, and what we're anticipating for the remaining 2 weeks of August. So the big items here is City of Richmond operating contribution. That's the invoice that was sent in July for the first 6 months that hasn't been paid. We're expecting, hopefully, that will come in next week. You'll see here as well is that out here this is the capital line for state, significant expectation of reimbursement. This is due to RTICs. We've received 8 RTICs, or we received 5 of the 8 with the anticipation of the remaining 3 coming. Four of the Arctics are roughly $5.4 million are payable at the end of August, and the balance are due October 1st. So this is reflecting the state reimbursement of the Arctics. This large inflow from the federal in October, that's the anticipation of the money to receive from the 5307 applications that are making their way through finalization. Also, as we had talked about in the May and June finance meetings, we had advanced money from our investments to, in light of basically the $10 million here, we're expecting that we're gonna have to advance another $4 million in September to pay the Arctic bills. We've talked to DRPT where we're submitting the invoices, so they're going to expeditiously turn around and reimburse them. Hopefully that it all, comes in rather quickly. And once we receive the FTA funds or replenishing the investments, that's when I made the comment earlier that if you did the straight linear math on the investment income over performance was roughly 28, we're down to 16 because the cash balance executive would add a little bit. As you can see, our cash balances are kind of going down on the lower ends here. And you can see here on the capital line, this reflects about $5.4 million in Arctics, as well as $1.8 million in Vans, as well as in the remaining 4 Arctics. So very capital intensive cash flow period here that we're experiencing at the moment. That's the combination of the balance sheet and cash flow. Any questions?
I have one quick one. I'm sure you probably told us in a previous meeting, but why was the May CVA dollar so different?
This one?
Yeah, was it just a remainder?
That was pulling up. What that is, that's a good question. So what that is that was the 2026 CBTA capital, the capital portion that was adopted in the 26 budget. So what I did was I pulled it out of, there's a separate Wells Fargo capital account. I pulled it over from the capital into the operating. That's what that is.
Gotcha.
So this, so as I mentioned, that the GRTC audit fieldwork starts on August 31st. Brown Edwards has concluded with the Old Dominion Transit Disability and Allowance Plan audit, and we're in the final stages of the RideFinders financial audit. We're expecting to get draft this week. So the RideFinders as well as GRTC audit will be brought to the November Finance Committee for discussion for the closing comments with Brown Edwards. So we're on track. We're expecting timely completion. I know that in June, Janice sent out to the entire board the required auditor communications to the members of the board. So if there's any questions you have, that you can reach out directly to Danielle Pelosi and contact information is in there. That's it. I'll take any of your questions.
All right, thank you. I don't have a report, no executive session, any other business. All right, hearing none, meeting adjourned.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, you didn't have a question?
no.
Surprised how chicken and chicken was. You caught off guard.
Efficiency.
We want to do this for this month, this next month to be longer.
Oh,
Be prepared.
That's a good point. I have an extra hour held that my vet put on schedule. Is that about right?
Yes.
About 11-ish?
is